Hi everyone, and welcome back to Let's Get Technical. Today, we'll be continuing from last week's session by taking a look at Adobe Animate. We have access to Adobe Animate, as well as all the other apps included in Adobe Creative Cloud due to the generous donation by the Rotary Club of Meaford, so a big thank you to them. Now that we have reopened to the public, you are also more than welcome to come to the library and give these programs a try. Last week, we followed the icon animation tutorial to create our very first animation. This week, we'll create our own project. To do that, we simply select Create New. Here are a variety of project templates for you to choose from. We'll just stick with Character Animation HD Video. At the bottom are also some sample files that you can start with, but we're just going to create from scratch. So to do that, we'll just hit Create to open a blank project. We'll start by saving the project. To do that, we simply hit File and then Save As. Let's name our project Practice. As we talked about last week, on the left we have our tools. If you click this workspace button at the top, you also have the option to change the layout of Animate. For example, you could change it to Animator, or Designer Workspace, or maybe just to display the essentials. Basically, there's a variety of options for you to choose which workspace works best for you. For this session, however, I'm going to use the basic workspace layout. On the right, we have our assets. Here we have access to animated or static illustrations, as well as sound clips. We'll open static, and as you can see, you have the option of characters, props, or backgrounds. Let's click and drag this woods background to add it to our stage. Now I can't see if the background is covering the whole stage, so I'll just hit this arrow at the top and change the zoom to Fit in Window. Now I can click and drag the background to move it so it covers the whole stage. Next, we can add an animated character by going to the Animated Assets. Let's choose this puppy animation. To add it, I simply just click on it, drag it, and drop it onto the stage. Now to make him a bit smaller, I can click this free transform tool on the left and then click on the corner of the box around him to resize him. However, when I'm transforming him, it isn't keeping his proportions. Now, if I hold Shift while clicking the edge of the box to resize him, you can see it keeps his proportions while making him smaller. When I hit play, I can see nothing happens, and that's because right now we only have one frame on the timeline. Let's make it so there are 60 frames, or 2 seconds of animation. To do that, we're going to click on frame 60 on the layer with the puppy animation. Next, we select Insert Frame. This will add all the frames from 1 to 60. We can select this loop button and click and drag the blue bar over the timeline, so when we hit play, it continues to loop. If I go back to frame 1, we can see that there is the forest background. However, it disappears on frame 2. To make it so the bottom layers also continue to frame 60, we can hold Shift, then click on frame 60 on those two layers. Next, we hit F5 on the keyboard to add those frames. When I hit play now, we can see that the background is there for the entire animation. Moving on, we're going to try to create our own animation using a static asset. Static basically means something that doesn't change, so we're going to edit it so that way the static asset actually becomes animated. Let's choose this farmer green side character. Just click and drag to add him. Now I accidentally put him on frame 2, so we'll just hit Ctrl Z to undo and move to frame 1. Now let's re-add the farmer. We can also see the puppy is in front of the farmer, but we want the farmer to be in the foreground. So we can click and drag the farmer layer to the top to move him to the front. Next, we'll just resize him using the free transform tool and holding Shift while we click and drag. To make it easier to see, I'll make the background layer invisible by hovering over the layer and selecting the eye icon. Next, we'll add animation to the farmer. We simply go to Animated, then on the second drop-down menu, there is an option for rigs. Here, there are different rigs you can attach to different static characters to add animation. We can also see there is a walking rig made specifically for the farmer green. Now we're going to double-click on the farmer to take us to the farmer symbol specifically. To add it, we simply click and drag and drop it on top of the farmer. We can now see this bone structure created by the rig that wasn't there before. If we look at the timeline, we can now see that the farmer has a walk animation. We can go back to the entire scene by pressing Scene 1 at the top. However, when we hit play here, we can see the dog is animated, but not the farmer. To actually view the animation, you have to press the play icon at the top that says Test Movie. Now we can see the entire animation, including the background. The farmer is walking, however, he's walking in place, so I want to make it look like he's walking across the screen. To do that, we're going to simply go to the last frame and add a keyframe. Keyframes indicate that a change is going to occur on that frame. In this case, he's going to move. Now, when we look at the timeline, we can see he's on one side and then abruptly moves. We're going to click on the middle of the timeline, then select Classic Tween. This will add the animation to the farmer so that the change is gradual. Now, if we hit play, we can see the farmer has animation and moves across the screen. If we press Test Movie, we can see all the animation, including the walking animation. So now we've made it so the farmer is walking across the screen. I'm just going to delete this farmer layer for the next step. Now we'll try animating this orange farmer to walk across the screen. Once again, make sure to be on frame 1 when adding the farmer. I'll just move and resize him a bit. Now we'll go back to animated rigs. However, when we hover over the rigs, we can't actually see a rig made specifically for the orange farmer. So in this case, we're going to take this generic walk animation and map it to the farmer. First, we double click on the farmer, so this will access the orange farmer symbol only and nothing else on the stage. Let's just zoom in to 100% for the next step. Now we'll click and drag the walk animation over top the farmer. This time it's opening up a rig mapping menu. So what we're going to have to do is map each of these nodes of the rig to different parts of the farmer. To do that, we're going to start by clicking the hip node on the map and then the area we want to map it with. So in this case, the farmer's hip. Next, we can add the left eye by clicking on the node, then the farmer again. We'll just repeat this step for each node. Now, if you make a mistake, you can just hover over the node on the mapping panel and then select this minus icon to remove it. Then you can just re-click the node and then the correct body part of the character. We'll just finish mapping all the nodes to the different parts of the character. You can also hover over the nodes to see which part of the character is mapped to it. When done, just hit Apply Skeleton. Now we can see the skeleton on the character. If we look at the timeline, we can see the farmer has a walking animation. We also have the ability to edit the animation. If we select the selection tool and hover over the character, we can see a bone icon. Now, if we click on different parts of the character, we can actually move the different bones of that character. So let's move it so the farmer has a bit of a skip on frame 1 and frame 30. So as you can see, as I move the different parts, it also moves the skeleton and make the movement more realistic. On frame 15, we're going to give him a little jump. So we're going to click on the free transform tool, then click and drag to highlight the entire farmer. Now we can just click and drag to move him up. When we look at the timeline, we can see he has a little skip in the middle. Let's go back to the entire scene by pressing Scene 1. If we hit Test Movie, we can now see the farmer is skipping in place. Let's repeat what we did with the green farmer and have him move across the screen. So first, we're going to add another keyframe on frame 60 to indicate change. Next, we can move the farmer to the right of the screen. Finally, we can click in the middle of the timeline, then select Insert Classic Tween to add the left to right movement animation. Now when we hit play, we can see the farmer slides across the screen. To make the background visible again, simply click on the eye icon on the background layer. Now let's add one more animation. We'll go back to animated characters and switch from rigs to all. Let's select this bunny, and we're just going to click and drag to add him. We can move him behind the farmer by moving that layer below the farmer layer. Now I'll just reposition him a little. Now when we hit Test Movie, we can see our entire animation. There we go, we've animated a farmer, a puppy, and a bunny all in one 2-second animation. I'll just save my work by selecting File, then Save. Now we can select the rectangle with the arrow to publish our work. Let's publish it as an animated GIF/GIF first. Now when I play this GIF/GIF though, we can see it doesn't actually have the farmer's walking animation. So to get that animation, we actually need to export it as a video. Here we can see it's using Media Encoder to create the MP4 file. Media Encoder is included with Adobe Creative Cloud, which you can access at the library. Now, when we open the MP4, we can see our entire animation. And there we go, we've created our own animated video. And that only took about 10 minutes to create, so with more time and more practice, you can create some amazing things with this program. Once we're done, we can just close it, and then if we go to the Home tab, we can also see the file in our recent list. This makes it easy for us to re-access the animation and make any changes as needed. That's it for Adobe Animate. I've only touched the surface of all the amazing things you can do with this program, so be sure to give it a try next time you're in the library. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you have a great week.